Hello, my friends. It's Monday, June 22nd, and we're into summer. I was spending some time before I sat down here to just do a little check how I was doing. I often will do that if I have a meeting or an appointment with someone and they're coming to talk to me. I generally try to take a little bit of an inventory on how I am. Maybe it's just an inhale or an exhale or something to be aware of how I'm doing. And then I'll sit down to talk and say, so what's happening? What's going on? What brings you to the pastor's office today? And honestly, as I was thinking before I sat down, some days, I don't know, sometimes it's just from being tired. The weekend schedule sometimes it's not tiring like when we used to have to bale hay and load wagons. It's more psychologically tiring. There's the journey of Saturday and trying to feel and do the preparation for the Sunday gathering, and then the sermon always is on my mind for at least for that week, for the entire week. So Monday is the beginning of a new cycle. Already thinking about the week to come, reading what I can to deepen my thoughts and to learn what I can that's new, or to remind myself of the past, what I've learned. And so anyway, I was sitting here 15 minutes ago thinking about how I am, where I am. I read my little devotional book, and it always has the same guidance. Think about today. Think about the gift of today. The sun is up. Life is continuing for me. There are some challenges, but they come and they go. The things that I think are going to be great big problems, sometimes they just disappear. I had a plumbing problem this morning, and I thought, oh no, here we go. It's going to be terrible. It was nothing. It was solved in an instant. And then I need an air conditioner in my car to be serviced because I was sure it was just low on the air conditioning fluid. And so I drove it over and thought I was going to drive it home. No, it'll take about $700 to replace the compressor. Life is like that. Oh my goodness, I try so hard to create an evenness related to anticipating what is going to happen, or, excuse me for one moment. I usually bring my phone with me. That's another particular joy. I try to keep my phone on and available and ready at all times, and so I am a huge target for telemarketers and spam. Even though I don't answer, I can tell from numbers now who it is, but oh, the annoyingness. Can't just turn the ring off. Anyway, as I was saying, I guess it goes back to what I often say, the wise and ancient ones from so long ago they didn't write, they just talked like this, and they would reflect on life and they would talk, and then eventually some of the ones got retained that were deemed worthy. And so, again, I go back over and over and over again to what the book of beginnings, the Genesis of life, tells us. Right there in the beginning, the reflections of the ancient ones, the wise ones, from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, their words coming down to us like floating on the top of a stream of time. And they come to us, and in the often misinterpreted or overinterpreted or misread story of the narrative of the events in the garden, human beings do not like the terms under which life exists. We don't like it. And not just me. We don't. You might not have noticed it, but it's part of what drives us forward in technology to create things that make life easier or expand our horizons or to win over diseases. And those are all good, in my view. But beyond that, there is a daily kind of acceptance of, how many times have I said this? Oh, accepting life on life's terms. Wow. And what are life's terms? Life's terms are, you don't know whether the challenge in front of you is going to be smaller than you think or bigger than you think. You don't get to know. I think the record shows that one of the greatest rejections that human beings have about being alive on this planet as a human being is we don't like not knowing. We don't. Even with all that we know and all that we've learned and all that we've accumulated and the facts that aren't disputable, as if there are any of those, and even with all of that, we're aware there is a universe that we don't know, and we don't like it. We don't. In a huge jump to the world of the New Testament and to the witness of people throughout the Scriptures, the Bible, whatever version you happen to read, the overwhelming call, invitation of human beings is that in the places where we don't know and don't like it, we trust. We trust. We have this thing planted in us, which is hope. And if we give it voice, what it will say to us is, what it will guide us to is, that in the times and places that we don't know what's going to happen, we shouldn't try to pretend that we know, and we should just trust. We should trust. We should remember that oftentimes we've been laboring under the idea that terrible things are right here for us. And that's not how it works out. When I was first starting to get some guidance from others, like I try to offer to others now, one of the things that was repeated, and I think it's part of the culture of therapists and pastoral helpers, is to say this, because I think it's true, that our imaginations, which are a fabulous gift that we have, our ability to imagine, it's like dreaming when you're awake. And then at night, your dreams are your imagination's gone to a whole new level of freedom. Gravity doesn't apply, time limits don't apply, and your imagination gets to work on and solve all kinds of problems. But when we're awake, our imaginations try to help us to deal with the fact that we just don't know. So we try to imagine. And oftentimes, we imagine the worst. Right? Because they used to say in Boy Scouts, Boy Scout gets prepared. You want to be prepared. And so we use our imaginations to try to see what we can't see, to see into the next moment, to see into tomorrow, to even imagine this is how it will probably go, and then we start making our list of preparations. And when you're afraid, your imagination takes you, I guess the purpose of it is it takes you to places to say, well, what if this happened? what if this were to take place? What would you do then? And so the phrase I'm trying to get to in helping sessions is that you should go ahead and document what your imagination is telling you. Because for most human beings, we imagine the worst that could possibly happen. No, we do. And then in these helping conversations, they say, well, imagine worse than that. Go ahead. Imagine the worst thing that could happen. Write it down. Write it down. And you think, wow, now I'm really going to get scared. I start doing that. And then there's this claim, and I don't know if it's been researched. It's been true in my life. The worst that you imagine almost never happens. Our imaginations, in an effort to be our friends and help us to prepare for all kinds of terrible scenarios, we can take comfort listening to our imaginations about tomorrow or about the future or about, politics or about family dynamics or about our health, all kinds of things that seems like our life rests in what happens in the future. And we don't know, and so we become full of anxiety. We suppress the hope that is within us. And one of the things that can release it is for us to hear those magical words. What's the worst that can happen? Flesh it out. And then know that almost never is what happens. Because our imaginations are very good. And all of that, everything I've been saying for this 15 minutes comes back to the reason that the treasure chest of our lives is not in our imaginations about the future. It's helpful. It's not in learning that our imaginations are always overblown from what actually happens. But instead, having exercised a little bit over there, we come back to this present moment. This present moment. Breathing in. Looking around not just for what we already know is here, because there may be some very troubling things that are right here in your life today. They may already be here. But looking for those other things too. Those other things that sometimes get covered over, shadowed over by not just the imagined difficulties, but the real ones. And allowing this moment in all that is actually present, that is actually here. Not the worries about the imagined future, but what's actually here to come into view. Old school disciplines of the church, counting our blessings. It's a thing. It is a thing. It's worth doing. I still count one of the blessings of my life is the discipline of this conversation. It's amazing to me. It's a blessing. It brings to focus the joy of what I do for a living, engaging and walking with and talking with people about their experiences of life and reading the Bible and trying to lift up things that are life-giving and freedom-giving to create resistance against oppressive forces of religion and control. It's really a blessing. And the chance to be here to do this kind of reflection every day. I go back sometimes and I listen to myself. It's awful. It took me the longest time to get used to seeing myself and hearing myself. It's very hard, but I've gotten used to me. I guess that's a good thing. And it is good for me to think about you where you are. Some of you, I know the circumstances. Some of you, I feel like we walk together, meeting here every day at 2 o'clock. I wait to hear little updates from you, or your thoughts and reflections about how we're walking together. So that's today. It's Monday. It's the second day of summer. It's been a crazy year. This 2020 has some real craziness in it. And today is still a beautiful day. I'm grateful for all of you, those of you that I know, and I'm even in some mysterious way grateful for those of you who are watching this that I don't know. You, I hope, are getting a sense of knowing me. I'm a pastor here in this congregation of people who seek to be followers of Jesus and take steps together, encouraging one another. And I've been meeting here with this group for 10 weeks now. I'm glad if you've just joined us, come back again. We're here almost every afternoon, weekday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we're grateful for the possibility that you might have joined us today or this evening. So let's start this week off right. Get out of today what you can. It's already 2:20. If you're going to do something about celebrating today, you might want to start now. Do your inventories now. Thank God for where you're at, no matter where you're at. As I thank God for you and for your presence in this strange kind of partnership on this journey of life. God bless you, my friends. I'll talk to you tomorrow.